Hi, if you found this video, then welcome. You're probably thinking about getting into Warhammer 40K, or even if you're just curious about 40K, about what it even is, don't worry, I've got you. Oh, that's bright. Hi. When it comes to lore, I'm a dab hand. When it comes to playing, I'm a noob. Same with painting. Don't judge. This is not a painting tutorial. You're just going to hang out with me whilst I butcher my death company. Yes, I have a wet palette. It's right here. Am I too lazy to unbox it? Also, yes. I am learning. I am on a journey of Warhammer self-discovery. And it's not always pretty, but you've caught me getting tournament ready. And in my corner of the internet, I am here to share advice to beginners from a beginner. So as always, if you are a professional, if you are an avid pro, just please be kind. Share your advice, tips, tricks, whatever you need to in the comments. But I just kind of wanted to break things down a little to help you figure out if this is your kind of thing or not, because Warhammer can be quite gatekeepy, and I'm not doing this in a gatekeeping way or anything like that. It's just not every game is for everyone. It kind of just depends on how much time, how much money, how much energy you want to put into a hobby like this, because it can be intense. Do you want to paint tiny white lines on 20 Death Company for what feels like forever? Sure you do. So this is probably going to ruffle a few feathers. But Warhammer 40K, if you're wanting to play, if you're looking for something cheaper, something quicker to learn, something faster to play, there are definitely other games out there. This is my box of paint. How annoying that for those people that have theirs aesthetically placed in colour order. But if you're into the idea of a hobby that you can just really lose all of your evenings to, 40K is pretty hard to beat, outside of maybe some of those like really intense historical war games, but it's a commitment. If it gets you out of social events, then where's the sign-up sheet, right? Oh, that wedding, can't make it. Painting my death company. Here's the thing: if you don't make that rude. If you don't like the idea of building, of customizing, or even of painting your models, 40K is probably not the best fit for you. I don't read anymore. I just paint, and then paint again, and then put the paintbrush in my mouth subconsciously, but I'm told that's part of the whole experience. So here's what we do: clean the brush, dry it on my trousers, hope for the best. Hey, if you're only in it for the gameplay, and see painting and building as like just something to suffer through, then you'll probably bounce off this game pretty quick. The people who stick with 40K, they're the ones who've been playing it for years. They're the ones who enjoy all of the parts of it, not just the battles and the never-ending like wet palette debate, or the fact you don't even need a wet palette because you keep this paint going with your tears. Yeah. So from what I've seen, because, you know, I am the all-knowing seer of the Warhammer world. But you know how basically, like, nobody wants a second mortgage, do they? Like, when you enter the world of adulthood, and if you're here because you're not an adult, then you're really in the wrong place. This is going to be boring for you, because we're about to talk mortgages. Bye-bye, children. Right, Warhammer is your second mortgage. No, I'm not selling this, am I? The core rulebook alone is like £40. That said, you can get basic rules for free. I'm not being a total like Warhammer Scrooge, but it's just the bare minimum that you need to play. There's no extra story or anything fancy like that. So on top of that, you'll also need something called a codex for whatever army you want to play, and that's basically your army's specific rules, specific info. Oh, if you picked, can you tell I've planned this part? If you picked Blood Angels like me, you're gonna need 2. And then, of course, 2 that are now dripping on me because apparently I got water on them. And then, of course, you actually have to buy your models, and then it adds up fast. I'm not saying all of this to scare you off. Most hobbies aren't cheap, right? I suppose, like, by the time you've gotten into them, there are games out there that definitely start off cheaper to start with, and then they're just kind of easier on the bank balance up front, and you're like this hobby, it's cheap, but then they start stacking up the cost, and then once you start building up your collection, the money just has to keep flowing. So if you're just starting out, like me, eBay is your best friend. I adopted my army secondhand. An army is for life, not just for Christmas. Adopt, don't shop. All of that kind of jazz, right? So there is going to be, and there is, a bunch of secondhand stuff out there at your disposal. You just got to look for what you want. Is there floating? It's kind of like chess. The rules themselves, they're pretty simple. They're easy to learn. They're no way near, I find anyway, as complex as D&D, but really mastering the game and the strategy behind it, that's the sport. So explain this to you in a way is like you're working with whole units of models, right? Squads that group together and they make up your army. So instead of controlling like 10 lone models, like standalone, you might be managing 8 squads with like 10 models or more, each moving and fighting as units. They stick together, you know, bro code. You got to do what you got to do for the boys. The focus is way more on how you build and organize your whole army rather than micromanaging every single model. It's kind of like, it's not like at all, it's not like a dance-off where it's like my turn, your turn. You know, that Eminem wasn't dancing, was he? He was rapping. I digress. One player takes their full turn, moving, shooting, fighting, all that jazz. And then the other player repeats and does the exact same. Now, once both players have gone, that's classed as one full game turn, and then you just keep rinsing and repeating until the game ends. Mechanics. Where are my little gun? What I found though is that 40k, it doesn't have that back and forth during a player's turn. It is really easy to get, if you're like me, to get distracted. Yeah. People don't sit down. Like, what's that about? Sit down, please. General gameplay, though, it's super tactical. If you want to win, you really need to have a good handle on your whole army and get like all of the different pieces together and working together and think about this strategically. You're not just hoping that one hero model is going to save the day. It's kind of like teamwork against all of your units, like a prophecy in there, right? Building your army, it's a big part of the strategy. A lot of games just kind of let you pick which models you want, and that's it. There's no real thought behind it on the surface, but in 40k, it's so much deeper than that. Your units and your models, they're not locked into one setup. You've got a bunch of like different weapons, different gears, so the options are just constantly there presenting themselves. You can tweak and customize how each squad or character plays on the battlefield. And then when you take that level of customization and then apply it across your whole army, you end up with this like crazy amount of flexibility, right? There's so many different ways to build and play the same army. I don't think a lot of other tabletop games actually offer this, particularly with wargaming. So there's so much freedom when it comes to how you build your force. You see, I'm selling this to you now. Some people always ask, and I ask this question a lot, particularly as an adult, when you don't have that much time on your hands anymore. How long does it last? That's what she said. Honestly, typically a few hours, but I have people in my community just like obviously way more experienced than me, telling me that you can knock out a game in about an hour or even less, depending on how big the armies are. Like I mentioned before, 40k, it doesn't have this like back and forth action during your opponent's turn compared to some other games. So there are moments when you're just kind of waiting for your opponent to do their thing. Once you've both got the hang of things, particularly if you're like new players and the tempo picks up, you get hooked in quite quickly. Something else I really want to mention though is the setting. You can't play 40k really without knowing the setting, the lore. I am going to keep this brief because, you know, lore is my kind of thing. But the Warhammer universe, it's incredible. Pretty much everyone agrees that the lore and the backstory and the history behind the game is probably some of the best out there. Looking at you, Star Wars. There's so much depth to the settings, the background. It just really sets the stage for battles you play, and the overall story is just incredible. Each army kind of has its own rich history, and then like its own storylines too, and they are super super well fleshed out. If there's one thing that 40K absolutely nails, and this is going to be my sales pitch, so let me put this down. It's pulling you into its world. I love the lore of 40K. It's what makes it feel just way more than just a game. It turns into this huge living piece of fiction. The armies, they're not just about fighting random battles for the sake of it. Some are. But anyway, they're fighting for survival, for power, or even their own twisted sense of justice. And there's real cause behind the wars that you're playing. And honestly, what's cool is that nobody's really a good guy in this universe. Some armies think they're fighting for the right reasons, but when you look closer, even the so-called good guys, they're just as brutal and ruthless as the ones they're trying to take down. It's a really grim, complex world, and that's what makes it so fascinating, I think, to dive into. I do hope this gives you a solid idea of what 40K is kind of about in terms of how to progress from knowing nothing to starting that journey to play. If I had to sum it, it's just keeping in mind I've been immersing myself in the Black Library for many years, and I am just treading water, hoping to survive when it comes to playing and painting. But I would say as a beginner that it's a strategic war game. It focuses on squad-based combat. It's all set in deep, very cool, very complex universe. The battles, they play out in this really cinematic, larger than life way. It's not the most balanced game, definitely not the cheapest or the quickest to pick up and learn how to play, but it's probably one of the most rewarding hobbies that you can dive into. It's so easy to get pulled in by the world, the armies, and especially the stories that you get to create on the tabletop. See, told you I'd sell it to you eventually. But anyway, this is just kind of like a hopefully brief. I don't know how long I've been waffling at you now for, but like a little update, I suppose, as to how I'm finding things as a new player, that's me, rather than just somebody who... I struggle with YouTube sometimes. I struggle because I try to find advice, and I'm often met with people that have been playing for such a long time, they are out of touch with what it's like to be a new player, particularly with new rules in play, and you end up listening to them rant about how frustrated they are that things changed over and over again, and it means nothing to you because you are completely brand new to this. So this video is aimed at you, us, newbies. If you are not a newbie, I do honestly always welcome your feedback and comments and the advice you can offer in obviously a really constructive and kind way. But please hit me with it all in the kind way. Hit me kindly. I don't know where I'm going with this. Please do all those things you need to do. Only one time to support my tiny channel. I don't know if you liked this new, just casual, let me chat at you and, you know, help me procrastinate. But if you didn't like it, then just please don't thumbs down me. Just give me a gentle nudge, like please go back to your PC upstairs. Goodbye.